Alison is a clinical hypnotherapist and Anxiety UK approved therapist. She is also a professionally qualified accountant and project manager and is currently working in a government organisation. During her accountancy studies, Alison struggled with exam anxiety and sought help. Hypnotherapy was instrumental in helping her to qualify. She went on to study with the London College of Clinical Hypnosis and obtained a postgraduate certificate in clinical hypnotherapy and remained with the LCCH as a student supervisor and tutor. She is a full member of the British Society of Clinical Hypnosis. Her specialisms include anxiety and phobias, and she has a particular interest in helping students achieve their academic goals. Her significant business experience enables Alison to understand and treat issues experienced in the workplace. Her talk is titled Single and Living Alone During the Pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you for that introduction, Tom. I'll just set my slides up, if I may. Right, single and living alone during the pandemic, my topic of choice, enabled me to reflect on the last 18 months plus. So the presentation is about a single person living alone during the COVID-19 pandemic, which is a situation that we've never experienced before in our lifetime. So I based the presentation on experience.
Alison, can you hear me? Sorry, Alison.
Yeah.
Your slides are not turned on just yet. You need to share them.
Sorry.
It's okay, it's okay. Don't worry about it. Yeah. I'll wait for you. Don't worry, Alison. There you go. You got it right now.
Apologies for that, everybody.
No problem. Okay. Just a full screen. There you go. Thank you.
Okay. Right. Sorry. So I based this presentation on experiences drawn from myself, friends and colleagues who are also single and living alone. Is everything okay? That end? Can everybody hear me?
I'm very sure they can hear you, Alison. Just to let you know.
Right.
They can hear you very well.
Right. Okay. So single and living alone, and they've been kind enough to contribute to this presentation. So basically, we were considered a profile of our single person, UK government measures that were put in place, lifestyle implications, the consequences of the COVID-19 lockdown stresses, how clinical hypnotherapy can make a difference, and looking to the future. Right, the profile of our single person. So for the purpose of this presentation, our single person had the following characteristics prior to the start of the pandemic. They were not in a personal relationship and been single for some time, had no pre-existing medical conditions and considered themselves to be healthy, both mentally and physically, enjoyed socialising, including wining, dining, attending concerts, engaging in golf club and sports activities, and visiting friends, and they were in full-time employment, office-based. So these parameters will allow me to focus on some elements of the impact of the pandemic, of which we all know there were many. So UK government measures. COVID-19 was an unknown quantity when it raised its ugly head in early 2020. It quickly and shockingly became a pandemic affecting the entire world. Not having experienced anything like this virus in our lifetime, the UK government had to introduce measures, some mandated, to try and control the virus and slow down its spread amongst the population here. Why? To reduce illness, of which the severity was unknown, to help control hospital admissions and strain on the National Health Service and control the death rates, which was also unknown but predicted by scientists as being potentially high. I will briefly review some of these measures as they will have an impact on the health of our single person living alone. Government measures introduced included instructing employees to allow their instructing employers to allow their employees to work from home. unless they were classified as frontline workers, which obviously were National Health Service staff, delivery drivers, supermarket employees, amongst others. Social distancing between individuals, which initially was 2 metres, to help prevent contracting the virus through the air. This resulted in queues at shops, petrol stations, almost everywhere accessible to the public. Eventually, after much debate here, the compulsory wearing of face masks was introduced as an additional layer of protection from the virus. We also had lockdown periods, of which there have been 2 in the UK to date, mandating that we should all stay at home and not mix with other households. Initially, we were only allowed to leave the house for essential supplies, to take 1 hour of exercise per day, or to care for clinically extremely vulnerable individuals, which in my personal circumstances, I was responsible looking after my elderly mother. These restrictions were alleviated in stages with the introduction of bubbles and allowing greater number of people to mix outside and inside the family home. When lockdown periods were lifted and we were allowed outside again, travel restrictions were imposed to control our movement around the country and in turn control the spread of the virus. For our single person, these government measures would impact their lifestyle in numerous ways. They will be confined to the house with limited social interaction. A colleague of mine who was always travelling for work, out socialising with friends or pursuing other recreational activities, described this transition as moving to a form of solitary confinement, which proved so very difficult for her. At times she felt so very alone and had to go out walking every day just to have the opportunity to see and talk to people, even talk to strangers. However, she adopted a positive mindset and routine walking every day. It can become very strange and solitary for a single person not to talk or see anyone for days on end. One positive aspect of the pandemic is that communities have become stronger as we all got to know neighbours that we hadn't met before. For another friend, the NHS clap was more than just a Thursday night recognition of the brave and dedicated work the NHS did for us all. It turned into her social life. Her whole street ended up being outside for over an hour, chatting to each other over garden fences across the road, looking out for each other, ensuring that everyone was coping in these unprecedented circumstances. A restriction on exercise was imposed as outdoor activity was limited to 1 hour per day, and gyms and sports clubs were initially closed during lockdown. I found this particularly difficult as I'm a keen golfer and play golf once a week, but I consider that main source of exercise. So this activity was suddenly taken away from me, along with all of the social aspects that go with it. So I felt as if I never left the house. However, in the UK, we were all lucky enough to have well-known personalities like Joe Wicks delivering online workouts that we could participate in. One friend found these workouts helped her to combat her loneliness. As to her, it was more than just a workout. It was more about being together with everyone, as the Joe Wicks sessions were transmitted live, and this made her feel that she was sharing the experience with others. Trapped inside our houses, day in, day out, also had an impact on the general health of some of us. Weight gain's been particularly problematic in the UK, and I'd imagine around the world. For those with a positive mindset and strong self-discipline, being able to social distance from the fridge can be managed. Living alone without anybody discouraging regular trips to the fridge can be challenging. One colleague, who I do regard as having good self-discipline, got into the habit of raiding the fridge and assumed that food became her comfort blanket during the pandemic. She felt that she couldn't control anything else in life during lockdown, so ate what she wanted, when she wanted, regardless of the consequences. This resulted for her in 1 stone weight gain. As we slowly return to the new normal, she has regained her self-discipline and lost the weight she gained. which is the benefit of a positive mindset. Adopting a new way of working from home, had its challenges. For a single person, not having someone at home to ensure we adopted good working discipline and didn't fall into bad habits created some problems. These problems including having a clear divide between work and personal time, ensuring a work-life balance. It was still and still is easy to work into the night or not close down the office by putting our Surface Pros away. Instilling poor work patterns, back-to-back meetings, missing lunch, not taking regular breaks from that computer screen, not being disciplined enough to take that 1 hour per day of outside exercise we're all allowed, feeling isolated as not having social contacts we would in the office. Several single work colleagues of mine felt there was a stigma that they should always be available. Skype indicates when you are working at your computer, a green light shows. That changes colour when you're away from your computer. They became stressed and anxious, afraid of leaving their computer to make a coffee or go for a walk. They felt they were being tracked. There was a lack of trust as they were assumed not to be working if their green light was out. The consequences of COVID-19 lockdown stresses. The combination of government measures and the virus could result in stress, anxiety and phobic responses, along with prolonged health problems for those single people who become a victim of the pandemic. As we are aware, anxiety is an emotion that prompts a physical response that allows us to react quickly to a real or perceived threat, a fight or flight mechanism. When the anxiety response is too intense or prolonged, or an individual experiences a perceived threat to their own life, it can lead to anxiety disorders. In some cases, the existence of the COVID-19 virus has had and still could have a significant effect on our single person's ability to carry on with their usual activities, social employment and recreational pursuits. The enforced withdrawal from society, from social activity generated by the government lockdown measures, including the closure of pubs, restaurants and clubs, could over time instill social anxiety disorder. Our single person no longer wants to attend pubs, restaurants, concerts and crowded places where the virus could easily spread. Restrictions mandating that our single person can only leave the house for a limited time and must work from home could lead to agoraphobia. Agoraphobia is most commonly defined as the fear of leaving a safe place, usually the home. With a fear of contracting COVID-19, our single person could consider the home the safest place to be. If due to the pandemic, anyone is anxious about going outside away from home, standing in long lines, being at home alone, being in crowded places, they are showing signs of agoraphobia. Earlier, I talked about a colleague who had a very social lifestyle and described being confined to the house as a form of solitary confinement. She has adopted a positive mindset and embraced the new normal, living with the virus. However, many agoraphobics also feel being left alone, could be monophobia, and dislike any situation where they feel trapped. A phobia, as we know, is an abnormal fear invoked by a particular object or situation where the fear is out of proportion to demands of the situation and cannot be explained or reasoned away, is beyond voluntary control and leads to avoidance of the feared situation. A friend had a situation during the early stages of the pandemic where she was suffering from COVID symptoms and had to register for a test. The test centre was a 45-minute drive away from her home. She was anxious and scared to leave the house. No one would go with her for fear of catching the virus. They thought it was too risky. Waiting for the result was painful, as every day people were being admitted to hospital and dying, and she had nobody to support her. She found the whole experience surreal and exhausting, both mentally and physically. didn't consider herself an anxious or fearful person. However, her rational brain went out the window at that time. Unfortunately, some of our individuals have become victims of the pandemic and will be suffering from social anxiety disorder, agoraphobia, and even monophobia, and will be feeling lonely and have physical health issues due to lack of exercise and lockdown implications. However, on the bright side, other single people living alone have adapted to the measures introduced by the government and embraced the opportunity of being at home. They have become fitter and healthier due to regular exercise, started new hobbies, and used the opportunity of peace and quiet as a time to reflect. For some, not having the daily commute to work has given them better time and a better work-life balance. How clinical hypnotherapy can make a difference. If an individual wants to take positive steps to help themselves return to their pre-pandemic state of good mental health and well-being, clinical hypnotherapy can help. Hypnosis can be used to create and access a serene, peaceful, safe place where you can experience a more realistic and positive perspective. The hypnotherapist has a range of therapeutic tools to address the consequences of the COVID-19 stresses and help our single person. We will look at a few examples now. Relaxation. Relaxation is the key to combating excessive anxiety, stress, or fear. As the mind calms down, it communicates with the body, in turn releasing any tension in the muscles. Relaxation occurs. It is also a fundamental element of hypnotherapy. We must relax our patients to enable them to be receptive to post-hypnotic suggestions and any other therapeutic technique that we want to administer. Our patient could also be taught the art of self-hypnosis, relaxing the mind to induce a gentle trance state, where in their own time, they can experience that serene, peaceful, safe haven sense of calmness. If anxiety suddenly occurs, breathing exercise can be formed, taking slow, deep, regular breaths, releasing tension to invoke calm. Post-hypnotic suggestions are suggestions given in trance to make something happen when not in trance. When creating suggestions for therapy, those suggestions must state what our patient wants and be positive, not negative. It can also be used to encourage your patient to imagine what has been suggested, visualization. These suggestions are perhaps the most important tool the clinical hypnotherapists have at their disposal, as they can eliminate unwanted behaviour and install new desired behaviour. Hypnodesensitization is a technique widely used for the treatment of phobias. It is based on a systematic desensitization behavioural method developed by Joseph Wolpe. The hypnotherapist induces a state of relaxation and the patient is then exposed to a succession of anxiety arousing stimuli from a hierarchy discussed and developed by the patient and the therapist. The hierarchies are referred to as SUDS, the subjective unit of disturbance scale, and the stimuli are ranked from a state of being absolutely calm, 0, to the worst anxiety the patient has experienced, 100. The therapist then works through the hierarchy, commencing with the lowest points, asking the patient if they are comfortable with the stimuli being presented. If the patient is comfortable, the therapist can present the next scene. If the therapist receives 2 no responses, the therapist can either return to the previous scene and or reinforce suggestions of calmness and relaxation, taking the patient to their safe place and then awaken the patient in the usual way. It will normally take several sessions to desensitize the patient, dependent on the level of anxiety they are experiencing. For our patients suffering with the fear of catching the virus, hypnodesensitization is a good technique to use. On the SUD scale, 0 could be safe at home and 100 could be contracting the virus at a crowded venue. Studio orientation in time, also known as POTS, is a technique that allows a patient to experience a time in the future when a problem has been resolved or is on its way to be resolved. This technique can also be used to help motivate your patient and set up a template for success. For example, if our single person wants to lose weight gain during the pandemic, we can enable them to visualise themselves at a point in the future looking good, feeling healthy, and confidence, having successfully lost that weight. The point in the future may be a realistic target they set themselves to achieve their goal. The studio orientation in time technique can also be carried out following hypnodesensitization, so the patient can visualize themselves in the future with no anxiety with the initially presented situation, free from fear of the COVID-19, the acceptance of living alone with the virus in the new normal. So looking to the future, the COVID-19 virus is still with us all and will be some time, and we must learn to live with it. We should look after our mental health as we do our physical health. Because it could be a challenge returning to activities that benefit our mental health, social and sporting activities. If we recognise that we are struggling with our mental health and aren't able to help ourselves, we should reach out to those who can help us. This applies to all of us, not just our single person. So thank you very much.
Dr. Anna, your mic is muted, Dr. Anna, just to let you know.
Okay, sorry about that. Thank you, Alison. And yeah, I was just saying that, you know, it has been tough, especially for people living alone. We've heard of friends who've had to celebrate birthdays alone, have a lot of milestones alone, and definitely the new norm is something that we really need to get in tune with. I'm just checking to see whether there are any questions popping up. We didn't have a question. So did you do a lot of online therapy? Was it a lot of, was there an increase in demand for online therapy because of?
Yeah, there was definitely an increase in online therapy, and I must admit, prior to the pandemic, I wasn't really a fan of online therapy. I prefer face-to-face. But I think many of us have become used to online therapy now and know that it can be undertaken safely.
Yes. I think we probably don't have any other questions at this point, but Alison, we will be forwarding you questions that come up along the way, because our participants may drop us some questions in the chat box. So thank you so much. It was really enlightening, and thank you so much, Alison.
Thank you very much.